Red 2 standing by, all for lit and in the green. Welcome back to Yu-Gi-Oh! The Falsebound Kingdom. And this is our bonus monster collecting episode. I will finally be getting Enchanting Mermaid after I forgot about it for quite some time. Got a lot of dragon monsters coming in, and there are no ground units. There's one air unit, maybe. Alright, so we've got a fair bit stronger. Once again, I will be using Bakura. And we'll basically just sort of scurry through until we can actually get rid of all our enemies. I don't really want to divert them too much, but I do want a few levels into my Gemini Elf so that I can recruit the other one in Chapter 7. We'll get around to that in due course. But as you can see, my elves are doing particularly well there. Cannon the Sword Mistress is doing alright. Shimon's doing well with that team. I haven't got any good warriors. Well, I've got Cannon. She is a good warrior. But we've got a few dragon enemies to deal with along the way. Probably should have brought more warriors, but there you go. Look, this is just going to be a bit of a drag, so let's just speed through this, shall we? Alright, now let's not make the same mistake twice. Head out to the east. And away we go. We should be able to find it. Obviously, it is actually in the water, as you might expect from a mermaid. There aren't any convenient rocks on which sailors can dash themselves in this map, so we'll just have to hope that we do run into it when we get into the water. Last time Dark Magician took on a water team, it didn't go so well. But with all the handy equipment we have, this should be pretty smooth. There we are, just off the coast. And it's only Enchanting Mermaid. I've already introduced her, so we can get straight to the battle. And she has the standard water cannon attack. What level is she? Only level 80, she doesn't go to level 99. Reasonable stats, Water Adept, Swift, and Status Guard, so she's actually a pretty good monster to have as a team lead in a naval team. High Tide and Floodstorm is basically your standard tidal wave attack. We have this one in the bag, pretty much, so may as well go with Dark Burning Magic just to do a lot of damage. It's the principle of the thing. Plus, it could make for a pretty good thumbnail. And bang! Heavy damage. Do you like gambling? Okay, that's interesting. It seems like Slot Machine's movement actually made different sounds because it was walking in the water. That's actually a pretty neat touch I hadn't noticed before. There you go. So the fact that Enchanting Mermaid is a spirit makes her an incredibly useful monster because she can benefit from some really, really good equip items. So we'll finish this mission off and then we'll move on to the next one, and I'll see you out in the beastie Badlands. King of Yami-Makai made its international debut in Metal Raiders, only reappearing in Dark Beginning 2. In Japan, it debuted in their version of Metal Raiders and reappeared twice more. King of Yami-Makai isn't that special in the card game, though it did fare quite well in the Bandai version. In the Konami version, it's mostly notable for having a defense that isn't divisible by 50. In the Bandai version, it had 2600 attack and 1600 defense for a level 7 monster, which at least made it a reasonably heavy hitter. This monster's best showing by far is in the Sacred Cards and Reshef of Destruction. It's still level 5 but packs 2600 attack and 2300 defense. It would take a couple more years before Frostosaurus hit that attack stat mark. It really was king in the GBA era video games. Reaper of the Cards made its international debut in Legend of Blue Eyes White Dragon, only reappearing in Dark Beginning 1. In Japan, it debuted in Volume 3, one of the first 5 effect monsters. Reaper of the Cards was the first effect monster to require 1 tribute to summon by virtue of being in the debut set for them, so it kind of got the prize by default. Taking out traps was pretty handy back in the day, and this may have been the first card which could destroy face-down traps. There was Remove Trap, but that only hit face-up trap cards. In the manga, this card could destroy a spell or trap card, and it was a regular effect monster. It seemed to work on summoning. In the anime, it only destroyed spell cards, whereas in the card game it became a flip effect monster somehow. Apparently, the digits in its attack and defense values wind up being a reference to Japanese folklore, which is a bit confusing. But it makes for a good enough in-joke, I guess. And here we go on our boss battle again. So for some reason they don't give you Reaper of the Cards and King of Yami Makai first time around, which is really stupid. Anyway, so we will have to deal with healing and a very powerful special attack, Oblivion Stare, which drastically reduces our attack if we're hit by it. But we have Dark Burning Magic, which looks really, really cool against the night sky. I love the way the graphics in this game are presented. I mean, it's a GameCube game, but it's an awesome, awesome game at that. It looks so good. Now, we will get trying our luck. Fire our lasers. And it's dead. So that's 10 points away there. And if you want a job on Top Gear... And we get hit with another Kamehameha. Now, Reaper of the Cards will more than likely use Monster Reborn unless we lock him down with Raimei. But problem is, enemies have a habit of just... See what I mean? I was just saying, enemies have a really bad habit of popping right out of paralysis to screw me over with their items. It's actually really annoying. Because, I mean, I don't get to do that. I don't get to suddenly spring out of whatever status effect I've got. I've got to suffer for several turns. It's bunk. Maybe it's some sort of countermeasure to actually trying to break the game. Alrighty. Slot machine, do your thing. And we hit the jackpot again. Very nice. We don't need to go in for Dark Burning Magic again. We can just finish these guys off. It's a little annoying, but it's the principle of the thing. Slot machine's coming along pretty well. I could just have Slifer... Could have just had Slifer toast his ass in all fairness, but probably would have been a bit infuriating because even the gods are not immune to status effects. And there we are. That will earn us 2 new monsters. And there we are. The victory is ours, despite 1 or 2 little hiccups. And more stats for Yugi. Well done. Team Yugi getting very powerful there. So we get a little bit of foreshadowing, and we get King of Yami Makai and Reaper of the Cards. Not too bad. With that finished, I will see you in the actual next mission so that we can get hold of our other Gemini elf, which means Bakura needs to get to work. So I've gone to post commentary on this because it was a little bit easier. It made it simpler to get the footage and just get what I needed. Now, I was heading for Diovan, where you recruit your second Gemini elf, and at one point the game just seemed to stop on me just before I reached it. I thought something had frozen, and then Joey blundered in, making a fancy entrance. Nice work, Joey. Gave me a heart attack just about. I thought I'd lost everything I'd been working on, since I did wind up running through this after the previous 2 episodes. Anyway, move along and recruit Diovan, and you'll wind up recruiting Laura. You will, as I said, need Quechua as the team leader, but the 2 of them will be able to use Gemini double radiation right off the bat. And Laura comes at level 40 as well, so she's not going to struggle too much. If you put the work into Quechua, you'll get a good team. Their HP's not great, but everything else is pretty good. After that, we move on into Chapter 8, where I wanted to demonstrate something I'd mentioned previously. If you have invested in Taya's team, you get an amazing demonstration of just how strong she can be. So we'll have her take on the team of Wing Eagle, Marvelous, and Winged Dragon Guardian of the Fortress. Putting a lot of levels into Taya's team and getting equipment on them is very handy. This is pretty much the same team I had for quite some time. Wing Eagle is still a jerk, but if you do have that equipment on them, you've put the levels into them, Taya will start with this team. No one else can use it. But there, you've got the kit. I'm very well stocked up for facing pretty much anything. So I can just power up my team with Reversal Benediction, and we can unleash firepower, blind them all with Screen Mist, which is really, really handy, and it's the key to your survival. And then just take them apart from there, basically. See, pretty much nothing happens. Once I get to unleash my attacks, we are absolutely fine. I had to make sure I hit the right targets because it's kind of tricky in this one. You've got a healer in the form of Winged Dragon. Wing Eagle has Polymerization, but Marvelous also has that multi-target special attack. This is why these teams are so irritating. They almost always have some sort of healing, and they will generally have Polymerization. It's an absolute pain in the backside, in all fairness. But with good levels and the advantageous equipment you get, you can bring these teams down pretty easily. As I've said, using status conditions is the major advantage, but you will be able to just sort of tear through things fairly easily when you get the right levels into your team, the right equipment, and you know how to pick your targets. I think this one went pretty well. I don't think they got the opportunity to fuse. The AI usually will be very good at that, but didn't get the opportunity, and the battle was pretty much won from here. Winged Dragon isn't super strong, which is a bit sad because dragons don't get to be fantastic, and Marvelous's special attack coming in hot. But it misses. Yeah, Blind probably is one of the best status effects because it does allow you to make the enemy waste their AP and not get anything for it. Sometimes they'll work around it, but that's just the way the random number generator goes, in all fairness. You will get all those strange and unusual quirks of it along the way, especially in early Pokemon, because back in Generation 1, it was actually based on the 255, that sort of 8-bit digit that generates a number between 0 and 255. Problem is, they didn't wind up putting in the equal to, so it had to be, I think, less than or equal to a certain number in order for certain things to actually be properly accurate. So this meant that moves actually had 1 in 256 less chance of hitting the target. The absolute best they could get was theoretically 255 in 256 chance. But there was a bit of a problem. this calculation also affected the Master Ball. So this was the only time in Pokemon history, because of a programming oversight, that the Master Ball could fail to catch a wild Pokemon, and it would be infuriating beyond belief if that was the case. I don't know anyone who's ever had that happen. And in all fairness, I've usually just used the missing note glitch. But it would be unbelievably aggravating. It would be beyond aggravating. So yeah, always make sure you get your programming right, because Game Freak was really not always the best with that. It is very impressive that the original Pokemon games do work as well as they do, but there were plenty of flaws along the way. Still pretty solid games. It is also worth noting that a lot of those old Yu-Gi-Oh games were insanely janky as well. But that was just because the mechanics of the game hadn't been sorted out properly. And now we are back to recruiting Gaia the Fierce Knight. Now I sent Joey in because Joey has warriors and he has monsters which can confuse the enemy. This was because I genuinely thought that you couldn't use polymerization if one of the monsters needed to fuse was actually confused. I wound up being a bit wrong. Well, in all fairness, I wound up being a lot wrong. Fairly bad start, but... So, first thing I decided to do, I had to take out those... I'm not exactly sure why I didn't just take down Gaia. Probably because I knew I had an easier time against the dragons. I mean, 2 warriors on my team, and one of the dragons waited. And just look at that. Axe Raider is phenomenal. Axe Raider put in some really good levels. And there we go. That's one of the fusion options down. Gaia attacks the wrong target, but still a fairly strong opponent. Now, if you bring a Water Adept team into this, could be pretty handy. It's all down to how you play your cards as such. You're not really using actual cards, but it's the principle of the whole thing. So there we are. Curse of Dragon is ready to be hit. And let's see. I probably should have gone for Curse of Dragon. I think I went for Gaia. Because I legitimately did think... Yeah, I wanted to lock down Gaia just in case, but then Curse of Dragon survived. 22 hit points left. If I'd gone for Curse of Dragon, then I definitely would have won the fight without losing a team member. I honestly thought I was going to wipe it out. And that actually caught me off guard when I was recording. I didn't realize that you could use polymerization when one of the team was confused. And of course, I got a critical for my miscalculation. Fairly nasty punishment for basically just deciding to do the sensible thing. Or somewhat sensible thing anyway. Probably could have been a bit more sensible, but because it decides to survive with 22 HP, and then with 96 HP, bit rough, but the fight was never really in doubt, because Gaia the Dragon Champion is a dragon monster. And there it goes, that's how you get Gaia again. Not too shabby, but was not very lucky that fight. Little bit unfortunate. Still, fair results. Now we're going to switch over to Kaiba's story, where we can see that we've got Zanki back at level 92. In much the same way we get Crawling Dragon back at level 91, when we play the first chapter. I lost the footage of that, and it's kind of annoying. I don't know exactly what happened, something glitched out somewhere along the way, but you will get Zanki back at a pretty high level. And it will come with plenty of AP and some pretty decent power along the way. It's still a very handy monster. Now, Chapter 12 of Kaiba's story. Have Swamp Battle Guard wander through the mountains southwest of the central town. Bazon, I think it is. Or is it Vrorsen? Vrorsen might be the castle, but if you have it wandering around down there, you will eventually wind up, well, go a bit further. I had to basically move forward just a little bit more, and there we are. That is where you will find Lava Battle Guard. Barbarian Double Impact can be used when they are united, and they are exceptionally powerful. They can get some pretty good stats and some pretty serious power, so unleash their strength anytime you like, put the levels in, and they are well worth it. And of course, in the middle of this, not only did I wind up eventually putting in the profiles for King of Yami Makai and Reaper of the Cards, but I realised I forgot to put Dragon Zombie's profile in, and I forgot to put the profiles for Ishizu's team in there. I don't know how I managed to do that, in all fairness. Probably because I was too busy looking for interesting other monsters. But we're actually going to see those profiles in the middle of this battle and the upcoming battle for Kaiba's story in Chapter 18. Let's get to it. Dragon Zombie made its international debut in Yugi's starter deck, also appearing in Legendary Collection Joey's World and the Speed Duel sets. In Japan, it debuted in Booster 5 and made many more appearances. Dragon Zombie is a bit outclassed these days, but it's still a pretty serviceable monster if you want some low-level firepower. It's certainly better than Crawling Dragon in the card game, since it loses nothing by sacrificing its admittedly not very good defense. It also fares quite a bit better in this game too, with a bit more power overall as it levels up, very good AP, especially once compatibility gets going, and the ability to poison enemies with its attack. Armored Zombie is still a little bit better, but this is incredibly capable. Generally, being dead isn't a good thing, though admittedly I can't speak from experience and I really don't want to find out, but apparently it turned out to be the case for Crawling Dragon. Dragon Zombie's pretty solid. Now, it might be a little bit strange for Rex to have the Harpies, but I really, several reallys, wanted to get this one done as fast as possible because dealing with Bandit Keith is a pain in the arse. The Harpies have the fastest movement speed along with Ansatsu, but I hadn't trained Ansatsu very much. And I wonder what that weird spike on the wings was. It was a strange shadow, but probably actually the covers of the wings sticking up. Let's see. No, I attacked the wrong one. Ah well. But yeah, you start off with a Triangle Ecstasy Spark, dish out a lot of damage, and away you go. Paralysing your enemies does help a lot too. Queen of Autumn Leaves is a nuisance because she can confuse your team and shut down your special attack. That's bothersome, but yeah, it's the wings sticking up. That's how the big shadow winds up happening. Only just noticed that, apologies for diverting slightly. But yeah, we can pretty much blitz through this battle with the Harpies. They're not quite as high a level, but they are still one of the most formidable forces in the entire game, no matter who uses them. That specialist equipment makes them insanely dangerous, and Insect Queen just had to be a pain in the butt and survive with 7 miserable HP left. Right, that is done. We can move on to the aforementioned profiles for Ishizu's story. I still can't believe we forgot her team. That was incredibly dumb of me. Sometimes I've been almost a little too creative with some of this, but at least I got to share some really interesting monsters. Unamazed Dark Witch made its international debut in Tournament Pack 8, then appeared in a Turbo Pack and Legendary Collection Joey's World. In Japan, it debuted as a promo for the game we know as Dark Duel Stories. Unamazed Dark Witch has the same name issue as the original Dark Witch. Both are meant to be Norse Valkyries, but apparently the meaning of the word Valkyrie has changed over time in some circles, which is kind of interesting. The first part of her name means power in ancient Greek, and she is very strong and capable in this game, with plenty of AP, good stats, and the ability to hurt Darklands monsters with her special. Even in the card game, she can still hold her own pretty well given the support open to her. The anime seems to suggest this card embodies Mai's friendship with Taya, especially since in her shadow game with Marek, Mai forgets about Taya when this card is destroyed. Orion the Battle King has never made an international appearance. In Japan, it only appeared in Booster 4 and Booster R2, so not overly prominent all things considered. I do have a question to ask with this one. If none have lived to tell tales of this monster, how do we know it's that powerful and that it even exists? As Jack Sparrow put it, no survivors, eh? Then where do the stories come from, I wonder? Someone's fibbing, and I think it's the flavor text writers. Orion's stats look okay, if not that impressive on paper, but being a level 5 monster makes it less useful than Unamazed Dark Witch. Even back then, monsters which could best it or stall it existed. However, like a lot of monsters in this game, which I've said a lot, Orion is handy. Its attack-cutting special technique, which also damages all enemies, is a fairly potent force and well worth using. Magician of Faith made its international debut in Metal Raiders and Joey's starter deck. It's appeared quite a lot since. In Japan, it debuted in Volume 4 and has also been rather prominent. Known as Saint Magician in Japan and possibly connected to Disenchanter, which is Saint Disenchanter there, Magician of Faith is one of the most useful cards from the older days of the game. With such powerful spells as Raigeki and Monster Reborn floating around, able to be used just about anywhere, a monster which allowed those cards to be reused was of great benefit to the player. The speed of the game has probably passed her by, to the point Raigeki is not quite as devastating as it used to be because swarm decks are incredibly good, but Magician of Faith will still be handy in casual games. In this game she's very handy because she can revive an ally with her special technique, so she's going to be a big target in battle. Shoot the medic in video games. And that's the last of them. That's pretty much all the monsters you can recruit in this game outside of Fusion. You'll need to complete Yugi's story again in order to get the Dark Magician once you use the Blackluster Ritual, that's the one. So, with everything in hand, it's time to wrap things up, to go onto challenge mode, and take on a few extra battles there. It's been a very interesting adventure. It's a strange but enjoyable story, and you'll get plenty of opportunity to test out all those amazing monsters, and some that aren't very good, like Kaiser Dragon, and really build up some fascinating teams along the way. It's been a heck of a journey. I'm really glad I've been able to bring it to you, and we are almost ready for the finale. The journey is just about at its end, but we still have a bit more to do. So now that you've found all your allies, you can get to work with everything. Thank you very much for joining me. Till next time, this is Red 2 returning to base.